Has this ever happened to you? That moment when you lock eyes with someone who matters, and suddenly your entire nervous system rearranges itself without your permission. It's almost imperceptible to the outside world, just a flicker, a shift, a tightening in the chest, but inside, something ancient wakes up. Jung once said that the psyche remembers far more than the conscious mind can ever confess, and in those first 3 seconds, the eyes reveal the truth your voice isn't ready to speak. Because the eyes don't wait for logic. They don't negotiate. They don't lie. They simply expose the emotional blueprint you've tried to keep hidden, even from yourself. Those 3 seconds are not casual. They are destiny distilled into a single glance. For many women, that moment feels like a sudden brightening of perception, a sharpening of intuition, a silent knowing that whispers. This person has the potential to alter the direction of your story. But beneath that electrifying recognition lies something deeper, the unconscious evaluating shadow against shadow, wound against wound, desire against fear. The glance is not merely about attraction, it is the ancient feminine psyche scanning for truth, danger, resonance, and possibility all at once. The eyes reveal whether your heart leans forward or retreats, whether your childhood wounds vibrate in warning, or your adult self awakens in longing. And before you utter a single word, your gaze has already answered the question your mind is still trying to form. Is this someone who can meet me, or someone who will break me? The body knows. The soul remembers. The eyes declare it. Because when a woman looks at someone who matters, her eyes soften in ways she doesn't notice but he feels instantly. The pupils widen, not only from attraction but from recognition. The recognition of a familiar archetype entering her orbit. Perhaps he carries the energy of the protector, the poet, the shadow knight, or even the wounded wanderer. Each archetype calls forth a different response in her gaze. Some ignite her longing to nurture. Others awaken her hunger for depth. Others trigger her instinct for self-preservation. But either way, the first 3 seconds never lie. A man may study your face, but your eyes study his soul. They scan the micro-signals he doesn't realize he's sending. The slight tension in his jaw that hints at unhealed anger. The subtle drop in his shoulders revealing exhaustion. The warmth in his expression that betrays kindness, or the guarded stillness that protects a bruise he carries from another woman's love. And even if you don't consciously decode these micro-messages, your unconscious does. Your eyes change because your inner world responds to the truth of who stands before you. Some women fear this moment, because the eyes can reveal a longing they've tried to bury. They may avert their gaze too quickly, as if eye contact is a confession of vulnerability. And in many ways, it is. The feminine gaze, especially when directed at someone who matters, is not passive. It is a revelation, a doorway, a spark of intuitive intelligence. When your eyes meet his, he feels the resonance, even if he can't articulate it. Your gaze asks questions without asking them aloud. Can you hold me? Can you see me? Can you meet me where my soul actually lives? Your eyes become the bridge between the woman you present to the world and the woman you become in the presence of someone who touches your deeper psyche. Sometimes they reveal a softness you didn't know you still possessed, a softness covered by years of self-protection, responsibilities, disappointments, and lessons learned too painfully. Other times they reveal fire, a forgotten boldness that awakens only when a man stirs your dormant desires. And sometimes your eyes reveal nothing but calm, clarity, the grounded knowledge that you no longer lose yourself in anyone's gaze. You see him, yes, but you also see yourself. In those first 3 seconds, your eyes also expose your relationship with your own shadow. If you have not made peace with your inner wounds, your gaze may seek validation, searching for reassurance that you are wanted, valued, chosen. But when a woman has done her inner work, when she has confronted the ghosts inside her, her eyes stop pleading. they become discerning, sovereign, slow to idealize. She looks at him not for what he could fill, but for what he awakens, what he mirrors, what he carries. The feminine gaze, when rooted in self-worth, becomes a force of quiet power. It does not chase, it does not cling, it simply observes, evaluates, and reveals. And in those first 3 seconds, the truth surfaces. About him, about you, about the story your souls could write or the chaos they could recreate. The eyes speak the language the lips fear to articulate. And once that silent exchange happens, nothing can unsay it. There is a reason Jung believed the eyes act as the unconscious made visible, because the gaze doesn't only reveal attraction, it reveals alignment, conflict, history, and the unspoken contract between two psyches meeting on unfamiliar ground. After that initial spark, something alchemic begins unfolding beneath awareness. A woman's gaze, especially toward someone who matters, becomes a mirror through which her deeper instincts start speaking. And those instincts are old, far older than memory, older than her current understanding of love, older even than the woman she thinks she is today. The moment after those first 3 seconds, her gaze subtly shifts from instinct to interpretation. She begins reading him without wanting to, analyzing him without intending to, and feeling him without permission. This is where Stoic philosophy meets feminine intuition. Seneca wrote that we suffer more in imagination than in reality. Yet when a woman looks into the eyes of a man who matters, she does not imagine, she perceives. Her intuition gathers fragments of truth that logic cannot hold. This is why women often know before they know. The eyes have already delivered the verdict, and yet something profound happens here. The subconscious begins revealing her own emotional history. When your gaze softens toward a man who matters, it's not just that you're seeing him, you're seeing yourself through him. The eyes reflect not only what attracts you but what haunts you. Attraction is never random. It is two shadows recognizing one another across a silent room. When you feel drawn to someone, your gaze exposes a longing you didn't realize had been waiting in the dark. And when you feel uneasy, your gaze reveals the memory of every boundary you once failed to enforce. Women rarely realize how much their eyes disclose in these early moments. The gaze may flick upward for half a second, revealing hope. It may dart away too quickly, revealing fear. It may linger longer than expected, revealing desire. It may sharpen slightly, revealing scrutiny. What matters is not just how you look at him, but what inside you is looking. Is it the grounded woman you've become, or the wounded girl you once were? Is it your conscious self, or the fragments of your shadow? A woman who has been betrayed often uses her eyes as armor, calm, steady, impossible to read. A woman who has been neglected may gaze with a tenderness she offers too freely. A woman who has rebuilt herself may look with quiet intensity, as if scanning for character rather than charm. And a woman who has healed learns to gaze without losing her center. Her eyes remain open, but her soul stays grounded. She sees possibility without surrendering discernment. When your eyes meet his, you are not just observing him. You are measuring him against your internal landscape. Does he approach like a storm or like a sunrise? Does his presence create tension or ease? Does he feel like the past returning or the future unfolding? The eyes answer these questions long before the mind catches up, because the psyche is faster than thought. It reacts to energy, posture, presence, truth. Jung insisted that the unconscious is constantly scanning the world for fragments of itself, and in that brief moment of eye contact, your psyche determines whether this person mirrors your wounds or your potential. This is why a man can feel undone, disarmed, or exposed under a woman's gaze. If he is unhealed, he senses that she sees through him in ways others do not. If he is genuine, he welcomes her perception. If he is guarded, he tries to hide behind charm or silence. If he is emotionally present, he meets her gaze without fear. A feminine gaze touches the masculine psyche the way fire touches dry grass. It reveals whether he will ignite with authenticity or retreat in self-protection. And here is the hidden truth few women ever articulate. Your eyes reveal whether you feel safe. Safety is not about physical protection. It is about emotional clarity. When your eyes soften toward a man, it is because some part of you recognizes his presence as grounded, consistent, or soul familiar. When your eyes harden, it is because your inner world senses chaos, unpredictability, or emotional danger. You don't choose this reaction. Your nervous system chooses it for you. In those moments, your eyes carry the wisdom of every lesson you've learned, every heartbreak you've survived, every boundary you've restored. And whether you realize it or not, the way you look at him teaches him how to approach you. A man who is emotionally attuned will read your gaze not as flirtation, not as challenge, but as truth. He will see the nuance in your expression and understand the language beneath the language. But a man ruled by ego will misread your softness as surrender, your curiosity as invitation, your silence as approval. The feminine gaze only reveals itself safely to a masculine presence rooted in integrity. So when you meet someone who matters, your eyes are not betraying you. They are guiding you. They reveal what your soul knows long before your mind has even formed a thought. And in that moment, the path ahead becomes illuminated, whether you choose to see it yet or not. After those first moments of recognition, something quieter but far more revealing begins to unfold. The gaze shifts from instinctual awareness to emotional resonance, and the deeper psyche starts speaking in subtleties, micro-expressions, breath changes, tiny shifts in posture that seem insignificant but carry the weight of entire emotional histories. When a woman stands before someone who matters, her eyes become the most honest narrator of her internal world, not the polished version she shows to acquaintances, not the guarded version she gives to strangers, but the version shaped by every shadow she has met and every truth she has claimed. In Jungian thought, the gaze becomes a symbolic threshold between the conscious persona and the unconscious archetypes operating beneath the surface. When you look at him, the persona, your crafted identity, tries to stay composed, but your unconscious, ancient, and unfiltered moves first. Your eyes reveal which archetype he awakens inside you: the lover, the huntress, the guardian, the orphan, the sovereign woman rising from her own ashes. Each archetype sees him differently. Each one carries its own longing, its own caution, its own memory of love and loss. To the lover archetype, his presence feels like a soft unraveling, a soul remembering. The eyes widen, breathing, deepens, and the world quiets. To the huntress, the gaze becomes sharper, assessing strength, depth, intention. To the orphan, the eyes may fill with an ache she doesn't understand, sensing the possibility of connection, yet fearing its disappearance. To the sovereign woman, the gaze remains steady, grounded, unshaken, measuring not charm, but character. A woman rarely knows consciously which version of her is looking out through her eyes, but a man who truly matters will feel the difference. Instinctively, he will sense her openness or her caution, her curiosity or her restraint. The feminine gaze is emotional telepathy, subtle, wordless, undeniable. Attraction begins in the body, but connection begins in the gaze. Not in words, not in gestures. In the silent exchange where two nervous systems meet without scripts or preparation. The eyes reveal whether one psyche recognizes another not by preference, but by emotional truth. There are men your mind finds attractive, but your body does, not open to. Men you admire, but never trust. men you enjoy but never allow close enough to matter. But when someone truly matters, the reaction bypasses logic altogether. Your eyes respond with a clarity that your conscious mind may resist, question, or deny. And yet, this moment is also where your wounds can speak louder than your worth if you haven't learned to separate the two. A woman who spent years earning love through overgiving may look with too much softness too soon. A woman who learned to survive through emotional detachment may avert her gaze, not from lack of interest, but from fear of being seen. A woman who carries abandonment in her bloodstream may look as though she's waiting for disappointment, even when her soul longs for hope. The gaze becomes a battlefield between the woman she has become and the ghosts she still carries. But here lies the beauty. The eyes also reveal evolution. They show when you've grown past your old patterns. A woman who used to shrink now looks directly and without apology. A woman who once chased validation now waits, observing him with sovereign patience. A woman who used to fear connection now allows her eyes to soften without surrendering her center. The transformation is visible, almost luminous. It is the look of someone who has reclaimed her power, and a man who truly matters, one who is emotionally aware, conscious, steady, will feel this evolution. He will not confuse softness with weakness. He will not misinterpret your gaze as permission to take more than you offer. He will see the layers, the strength beneath the warmth, the intelligence behind the silence, the boundary inside the openness. A man of depth is not overwhelmed by a woman's gaze, he is awakened by it. But the truth few acknowledge is this: your gaze also reveals what you are ready to receive. If deep down you still expect inconsistency, betrayal, or disappointment, your eyes brace for it. If you've done the work to expect respect, honesty, and emotional presence, your gaze becomes a gateway for healthier connection. The body cannot lie. It mirrors your internal standards with precision. And when two people meet on this frequency, when both gazes speak honesty rather than fear, the air shifts. There's a quiet recognition that something significant has entered the room. Not fate, not fantasy, but alignment. You see his truth and he sees yours. No masks, no performance. Just two psyches acknowledging each other through a doorway made of silence. This is why the eyes matter so deeply. Not because they reveal attraction, but because they reveal readiness. They expose whether your heart is opening or protecting, whether your soul is leaning forward or holding back, whether your boundaries are rooted or trembling. 3 seconds are enough to reveal what hours of conversation cannot. What happens next is something almost mystical, though entirely grounded in psychology. The gaze begins shaping the dynamic long before either person overspeaks. A woman may believe she is simply looking at him, but what actually transpires is a silent negotiation between two unconscious minds. Her eyes assess not his appearance but his emotional temperature, his hidden wounds, his level of presence. And if he matters, if he stirs something dormant or significant within her, her eyes reveal a depth she rarely allows the world to see. The masculine psyche, especially when emotionally attuned, recognizes this depth instantly. A man who operates from authenticity rather than ego senses the difference between a glance that is polite and a glance that is penetrating. The first is social. The second is archetypal. It touches him. It makes him aware of himself in a way he normally is not. Men often cannot articulate why a woman's gaze affects them so strongly, but the truth is simple. The feminine gaze confronts the masculine with who he is in that moment, not who he pretends to be. Because your eyes don't meet who he wants to be. They meet the truth he carries. And the moment he feels that truth reflected back at him, something shifts in him as well. His posture changes. His breathing deepens. His shoulders lift or soften, depending on whether he feels seen or judged. Jung believed that the soul is always seeking recognition. And when a woman looks at a man with authentic presence, it becomes impossible for him to hide from himself. The gaze becomes a mirror, and the mirror becomes a test. But here is what few ever acknowledge. The gaze is not just about him. It is also the beginning of your individuation process within the connection. When you look at someone who matters, you are not only perceiving him, you are confronting the parts of yourself that awaken in his presence. Your eyes reveal whether you are longing or guarding, whether you are open or alert, whether you are choosing or hoping to be chosen. And he feels each nuance. A woman's gaze carries her entire emotional biography. If she has lived through abandonment, the gaze carries cautious longing. If she has been betrayed, it carries an almost imperceptible restraint. If she has spent years shrinking herself, it carries a quiet fear of being seen in full. Yet if she has reclaimed her self-worth, her gaze becomes something entirely different. Grounded, sovereign, steady. She looks at him without collapsing her own center. Such a gaze disarms a man, not because it is seductive, but because it is clear. Men are far more sensitive to clarity than they realize. The masculine psyche gravitates toward a woman whose eyes reveal inner coherence, someone who knows who she is, what she values, and what she will no longer tolerate. This clarity creates a gravitational pull not born of desire, but of respect. And nothing draws the mature masculine more strongly than respect. But the feminine gaze does more than reveal emotional history or inner strength. It also exposes hidden patterns in the connection itself. For example, when a woman looks at a man who triggers her anxiety, her eyes will scan him more rapidly, searching for inconsistencies. When she looks at a man who awakens her softness, her pupils dilate, her gaze steadies, and her breath synchronizes to his rhythm. When she looks at a man who mirrors her shadow, her eyes may harden for a moment before softening without permission. The gaze reveals the blueprint of what will unfold if she steps closer. This is why the beginning of a connection often feels fated. Not because destiny is at play, but because the unconscious recognizes patterns long before the conscious mind catches up. Your eyes reveal what you are drawn to, what you fear, what you secretly desire, and what you unconsciously expect. They also reveal whether you are meeting him as the healed woman or the hurt one. But deeper still, your gaze reveals your readiness for intimacy, the emotional intimacy that terrifies and transforms. If your soul is prepared for a connection rooted in honesty, your eyes remain open even when you feel vulnerable. If you are not ready, the gaze fragments, darting between hope and hesitation. The eyes speak the language of readiness long before the mind forms a decision. And in these early moments, something else quietly unfolds. He begins revealing himself in response to your gaze. A man who is aligned with his own integrity will remain steady, grounded, receptive. A man whose ego fears exposure will mask himself with charm, bravado, or coldness. The gaze is a test for both sides, though neither realizes it consciously. It is the first dialogue between two psyches, spoken without words. As the connection deepens, the eyes continue to speak. They soften in moments of truth, sharpen in moments of doubt, widen in moments of vulnerability. They become a map of the relationship itself, a map drawn before the first step is taken. What he sees in your eyes teaches him how to approach you. What you see in his eyes teaches you how to receive him, or how to walk away. As the connection unfolds beyond that first electric moment, the gaze becomes something even more profound, a silent contract between two souls, one that determines not only what will begin, but what must end within each of you for that bond to feel authentic. When a woman looks into the eyes of someone who matters, she doesn't just see the man. She sees the future version of herself reflected back. She senses who she could become with him, who she might lose herself to, or who she is, finally ready to stop being. The eyes reveal possibility, but they also reveal truth, and sometimes that truth is the most liberating or the most terrifying thing she will ever face. Because in the gaze, the unconscious does not negotiate. It does not soften the edges of reality. It shows the woman exactly what she needs to see, even if she is not prepared to acknowledge it yet. She may see tenderness in him, and her eyes soften in response. She may see inconsistency, and her eyes darken with instinct. She may see potential, and her eyes widen with hope, or she may see chaos, and her gaze retreats, even as her heart tries to hold its ground. The eyes know. They always know. But then comes the second revelation, the one most women resist until life forces them into honesty. Your gaze reveals what you think you deserve. If you have spent years making yourself small, your eyes may search for proof that he will choose you. If you have lived in emotional survival mode, your eyes may dart around his, afraid to meet the truth head-on. If you have been conditioned to earn love, your eyes may plead without meaning to. Yet, when a woman begins to heal, when she finally understands her worth in a way that no man can touch, her gaze transforms. She no longer searches for reassurance. She observes. She no longer asks for permission. She discerns. She no longer looks for potential. She sees reality, and the man before her feels that shift like a gravitational pull. Because a woman whose eyes speak from self-worth is a woman who no longer negotiates with her own dignity. She looks at a man not to see who he could become, but to see who he is, and whether that version of him is compatible with the version of herself she fought to become. The masculine psyche is deeply affected by this grounded gaze. A man who is emotionally mature feels seen in a way that inspires him to rise into honesty, rise into steadiness, rise into presence. But a man ruled by ego feels exposed, stripped, destabilized. He will avert his eyes, shift his posture, or hide behind distance because he cannot withstand the truth reflected back to him. The eyes reveal the balance of power, and the woman who has stepped fully into herself does not seek power over him. She simply refuses to abandon the power within her. Yet the gaze is also a portal to transformation, not only for him, but for her. When she looks at someone who matters, she is invited into a crossroads. Repeat the patterns of her past or step into the reality of her worth. For many women, attraction is the first test. It is easy to feel sovereign in solitude. It is harder when faced with a man who activates longing, curiosity, desire, or vulnerability. But this is exactly where the eyes become her greatest guide. If her gaze remains steady, even while she feels deeply, she is operating from strength. If her gaze flickers between wanting him and fearing herself, she is operating from wounds. And recognizing this difference is the beginning of liberation. Because once a woman sees the truth of her gaze, she can no longer be deceived by charm, projection, fantasy, or potential. She knows what she is looking at, and she knows what part of her is looking. When two people who have done their inner work meet each other's eyes, the energy shifts into something rare, something calm, slow, unafraid. The eyes do not rush. They do not cling. They do not hide. They simply acknowledge, I see you, and I see myself in your presence. This is the foundation of conscious connection, the kind that doesn't devour identity but strengthens it. And when a woman reaches this level of clarity, something extraordinary happens. She no longer fears the intensity of connection. She no longer fears losing someone. She no longer fears being seen. Because she does not meet a man hoping to be chosen. She meets him to choose, with discernment, with calm, with power. She knows that her gaze is not a plea. It is a boundary. It is a truth. It is a declaration of her emotional sovereignty. And the moment she embraces this, the dynamic changes forever. Not just with him, but with every man she will ever meet. Her eyes stop reflecting fear and start reflecting certainty. Her gaze becomes a lighthouse, not a question, a signal, not a search, a standard, not a sacrifice, because the woman who knows her worth doesn't chase, she chooses.